All right. Evidence handling. As a tech, you need to deal with people who use company computers in prohibited ways. In most cases, you're not paid to be the police and should not get involved. There are times, however, when something really bad takes place. Well, that's what I was just saying earlier. All right. And in one of the systems that you support, and if you're the first tech person there, everyone is going to turn to you for action. A technician should ignore personal information in and around a person's computer. What can anybody tell me what that means? Ignore personal information. All right.
So it has to do with maybe user passwords for different sites, or if the person have any financial record saved on their device.
Right. Any data that you see, or for instance, let me give you another example. Perhaps the person have personal photos or videos that might be a little explicit, for example. That would be considered personal, not on a company computer, but let's say you're supporting somebody on their personal computer at their home, right? And in your support, you gain access to the system and you come across personal data. It might be files, it might be credit card information, it might be pictures or videos. Essentially, you are to ignore all of that. All right, whatever you see, you shouldn't even see. You do your job and forget everything else. So as mentioned back in chapter 2. All right, Kira, I'm muting you. We have a little feedback by you. All right, you should treat anything said to you and anything you see as a personal confidence, not to be repeated to customers, co-workers, or even bosses. Here's Mike's rule of confidentiality. Unless it's a felony or an imminent physical danger, you didn't see nothing. So leave people's business alone, stay away from it as much as you can, because as a tech, you're going to be given access, right? And access can be dangerous. So do your job and get out. Only if it is a felony, you find evidence of a crime, right? Or other wrongdoing, or in the case of company equipment, you find evidence of them doing personal stuff on the company computer, and that goes against compliance rules, then you can make a report. Anything else, you basically forget about. Okay. This includes any confidential customer materials. Try not to look at anything that isn't directly related to your job. Sometimes that's impossible, but limit your exposure. If you're waiting on a printout at a printer and there's suddenly a bunch of printed pages coming out of the printer with employee payroll information, set it to the side and pretend you never saw it. But what about the scary stuff? Espionage, pornography, we spoke about that already, right? Hacking. In those cases, you become the first line of defense and you need to act accordingly. So what do? Let's adjust the objectives as listed by Comptia. First thing, you need to identify the action or content as prohibited, right? Use common sense, but keep in mind that most organizations have an acceptable use policy that employees must sign. And that basically tells them what they can or cannot do on the company's computers. Remember, these policies aren't just for obvious issues, such as using a computer for personal use. These policies cover computers, phones, printers, and even the network itself. So those policies govern what websites you can access, right? And even the times you can access them. This policy will define the handling of passwords, email, and many other issues. Like I know, for instance, if you're on the government network, there are sites that you simply cannot access because they've been blocked, all right? Many other employers do the same thing. Essentially, parental controls for employees. All right, so once you identify the action or content as prohibited, You want to then report through the proper channels. In most cases, you report any prohibited actions or content directly to your supervisor. There's also a chance your company will have a security officer or incident response leader who you'll contact instead. Do not speak to the person making the infraction unless your supervisor approves that contact. Again, you will use common sense in your decisions if you're ever in that case. These are really worst case scenarios. The next step, device or data preservation, or device and data preservation. So you might end up in a situation serious enough that a computer or other device becomes evidence. In these cases, the location of the system and who has touched it may come into question. So you need to establish a chain of custody, a documented history of who has been in possession of the system. You should have a legal expert to guide you, but the following are fairly common rules. Isolate the system, shut it down, and store it in a place where no one else can access it. Step 2, document when you took control of the system, the actions you took, shutting it down, unplugging it, moving it, and so on. Don't worry about too much detail, but you must track its location. If another person takes control of the system, document the transfer of custody. Once you transfer it to somebody higher up the chain, a police officer, for instance, or a security officer, or your supervisor, then it's out of your hands. You let them do what they have to do. All right. Any questions? I think everybody knows what they would consider illegal information or information that you would need to report. So that should be pretty straightforward now. Okay. Kira, how are you doing?
I'm good, sir.
All right, awesome. Okay, no questions so far, right? We can continue. All right, network security. Networks are under threat from the outside as well. So this section looks at issues involving internet-borne attacks, firewalls, and wireless networking. This content is the security bread and butter for the Comptia A technician, so you need to understand the concepts and procedures and be able to implement them properly. Malicious software. Well, let me just read the intro. We all know what malicious software is. I'm not gonna go through each of them in detail because we have done that before in previous classes, but let's just take that. The beauty of the internet is the ease of accessing resources just about anywhere on the globe, or from the comfort of your favorite chair. This connection, however, runs both ways, and people from all over the world can potentially access your computer from the comfort of their evil layers. The internet is awash with malicious software that is, even at this moment, trying to infect your systems. The term malware defines any program or code that's designed to do something on a system or network that you don't want done. So any form of virus, Trojan, worm, or anything like that would be considered malware. Any application that does something you don't want to be done on the system would be malware, and it can come in a number of different forms, such as viruses, worms, Trojan horse, rootkits, spyware, hardware. All right. So we're not going to go through those in detail. Does anybody have any issues with any one of those? Does anybody not know what is a Trojan horse, for instance? Okay. So rather than read through for you, I'll just run somewhere. I'm going to ask, how do you deal with malware? Can anybody tell me what is the typical process of dealing with malware?
Well, first off, I would take the computer offline. Well,
Okay. Right.
I would take it off,
Take it
and then I
offline.
would get an
Yeah, continue. Sorry.
then I would get an anti-malware.
Okay.
So
You have anyone in mind right now?
most times I use AVG or Avast.
AVG or Avast, okay. Both of them are good. Avast bought over AVG, so it's really the same company now, same antivirus for the most part.
And I would do a deep scan.
Okay, do a deep scan. Right. I also like Malwarebytes, anti-malware.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and it's not really like an antivirus, so you can install it and run it alongside your antivirus, and it works fine as well.
Malwarebytes.
Malwarebytes, yeah, anti-malware.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Everybody knows what ransomware is? You just drop that question on our What is ransomware? I know we again discussed that in the previous class.
Well, it takes over your personal files and encrypt them, and they charge you a fee.
Right,
to,
another fee, a ransom.
well,
Right, they charge you a ransom to get your files back, or to get access to your files back. All right. Okay. Now, not only do you have malware, as in files that can do you harm, all right? You have botnets, robots, right? And you have actually people who will attack you individually. And there are different types of attacks, right? Again, I'm sure you guys went through that. So we have zero-day attacks. All right. Spoofing. Man in the middle. Session hijacking. And brute force. Just to test you guys, can somebody tell me what is a brute force attack?
well, it's guessing passwords.
Right. So basically that's what it is. You brute forcing by trying one password after another. So let's say you get somebody ATM card and you're trying to figure out their PIN code. You start from 0000 to 0001, 0002, 0003, 0004 until you get to 9999. Basically,
But
figure the 4-digit.
But I think all social media platforms block brute force. So
Well, yes, brute force has been blocked, and is one of the easy ways to it's one of the easy attacks to block, especially if it's not being done by a bot. So, for instance, Facebook and so on will lock you out after a number of incorrect tries, or they will send well, they'll make sure it's not a bot by asking for the captcha, or they will send you a PIN code to your email. Number of different ways you can get around it, right? But again, we're not just talking about hacking social media, right? Remember, we might be talking about hacking a safe, right? A computerized safe. We might be talking about hacking a computerized door, all right? So remember, computers come in different forms. So brute force is a threat as well. All right. Can anybody tell me what's a man in the middle attack? Right, I don't want you to get to me again. Like, Kira, we have any idea what's a man in the middle attack? No. Okay.
I read it there, but I try to make sense of it.
Okay. I'll give you a minute to read it and see if you can make sense of it and let me know.
Mhm. I don't understand. To be honest, I don't
Okay. All right. Let me ask you a question now. What device you have connecting to the session? Your phone, a laptop?
Laptop.
A laptop?
Laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're connecting through Wi-Fi, not true?
Yeah.
Meaning that there's no wire connecting you to your router.
No.
So all of the data that I'm sending right now to you and you sending back to me is just flying through the air.
Yep. Technically,
Yes,
yeah, that's true.
technically. So
Yep.
so what's stopping somebody from just putting their laptop up to access that data, but well, to access the same network, but to pull the data that is going between me and you to see it for yourself.
Oh.
You understand? So
Yeah.
where you think you're having a private conversation between me and you, or we sharing private data, there's somebody else intercepting that and getting access to it as well. That might include you logging into your email, because when you log into your email, you type in your email address, you type in your password, right? But you connected wirelessly to the router. So somebody also connected wirelessly can intercept that and use that against you.
Oh.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense now. No, it makes sense.
Okay. All right. What is spoofing?
What program would you use for that?
Honestly, right now, I'm not sure. I'm out of touch with the hacking community. But if you want to be up to date on that, the course you should check out is Certified Ethical Hacker. Yeah. CE8.
Certified Ethical Hacker.
Certified Ethical Hacker. It's actually a course that you can take that will teach you the elements and the fundamentals of hacking. So, well, hacking is basically the same as understanding hacking is the same as security. You need to understand how hackers work so you can defend against it. So that's why they call it ethical hacking. You hack so you can defend, not attack. Right. So that's the course you want to check out.
Cool.
But those things are constantly changing. Few standardized tools that they use, but I wouldn't even remember the names of those things right now. Yeah, and anything that I would remember might be out of date. You might either have to look for a replacement or a new version, right? Because new security protocols would have been. But if you're interested, I do have all of the security tools and everything offered in the, at least the Certified Ethical Hacker from about 10 years back.
Cool. Right.
Yeah. Okay. What about spoofing? Anybody tell me what is spoofing? Spoofing is a general act, right? So for instance, a lot of those man-in-the-middle attacks are actually spoofing attacks, right? Where they access the data by making the sending device, your router or your computer, think that they are the receiving party. All right. So spoofing is basically pretending to be somebody or something that you're not, so that you can access data that you don't want. You shouldn't have access to. All right. Phishing is another example of spoofing. Remember, we spoke about phishing in the last class, phishing. All right. Basically, right. So In spoofing, sometimes they might spoof an email address to make it seem like an email came from somebody that you know, but it really came from somebody else, right? And then you might try to reply, but it replies to a different email address, and you think you're replying to that email. Or they might spoof a web address to make you think that you're on a web page that you're not on. Like you might think you're on PayPal, but you're on PayPal with 2 L's or something similar that you might miss. All right, so all of that would be considered spoofing. Basically, they just explain in different ways that hackers can access your network or make you vulnerable. Access your network or your device or make you vulnerable. All right. Sorry. I was shocked of where I was. Give me a second. All right. Pop-ups and drive-by downloads. Well, I'm sure everybody knows what's a pop-up, right? Those windows that pop up while you're online. You might be accessing one website trying to watch a movie, and then you have 6 unknown websites pop up behind, web pages pop up that you have to close, right? Especially if you just watch plenty bootleg movies. And we also know what is drive-by downloads. So one of those pop-up might just decide it downloading a file onto your computer. All right? That would be considered a drive-by download, a pop-up that just pop up and decided downloading a file. And you now have to be wise enough to determine to delete that file or at least not open that file. I think we can just take it from here. The lesson here is simple. Don't click. We're talking about drive-by downloads or strange files in general. At least not without researching the suspicious looking program first. I think that goes for most viruses or affected files. If you visit a website that prompts you to install a third-party application or plugin you've never heard of, don't install it. Well-known and reputable plugins such as Shockwave or Flash are safe, but be suspicious of any others. So be suspicious of any software that just throw itself at you, right? Software will tell you, hey, we detect a virus on your computer, but we can fix it for free. Install us and we'll fix it for you. Those software like that, be wary of.
Well, I usually Google it.
Usually Google it. Well, myself, if I don't look for it and you come to me, I have a problem, man. I like in my experience, I just have to fight for good things. Good things doesn't throw themselves at me.
Yeah, true.
But then we have to be careful what we Google in there, because some of these people just go great lengths to make fake websites
That
to
is
make the
true.
software
Right.
look correct.
That is very
true.
true as well. All right. Also, they do mention it here. I want you guys to read through it, but they can get very creative. For instance, you might think you're clicking on the close button on a window, but you might really be clicking on the install now button. That is this guys as a close button for clever programming. All right. So doing things like pressing Alt F4 to close a window, right? Rather than clicking where they intend for you to click or where they put for you to click. Again, those attacks are a bit more rare, a bit more specialized, and you might get it if you on like niche websites watching kids anime, those sort of things. But it's worth knowing how to get around them. So things like shortcuts help to avoid you inadvertently clicking in the wrong spot. I'm sure you've encountered the windows like that. A pop-up window, and when you think you're closing it, you really just open another window. Windows comes with Windows Defender. which is a fine tool for catching most spyware and viruses and so on, right? But it's not perfect. You can supplement Windows Defender with a second spyware removal tool, right? If they talk, well, they talk about spyware specifically. You have Spybot, Search and Destroy. You have Lavasoft adware for adware, right? There are a number of tools that you can use for specific purposes, right? As Clyde said earlier, a general purpose tool like AVG or Avast antivirus on your system will do wonders for protecting your system. And most times you don't need more than that. But sometimes, let's say you inadvertently installed something, right? AVG may not necessarily detect it as a virus, right? But it might be a form of malware. It might be an adware, for instance. So you might need to install something like Lavasoft adware, which would detect adware, but it would detect adware that AVG might not necessarily pick up as a virus. So there are niche market tools that you can use for adware, spyware. Malwarebytes anti-malware is a good general purpose tool for general purpose malware, right? But of course, there are times when specialty tools work best. Spybot Search and Destroy is a very good tool I've been using for years for, again, spybots, which are really not common these days. Oh yeah. And not only my personal favorite is Malwarebytes, but yeah. So if you don't have those tools installed in your system, you can feel free to check them out, right? I recommend AVG, Malwarebytes. These applications work exactly as advertised. They detect and delete malware in different forms, right? So that might be in files, folders, cookies, registry keys and values, you name it. All right. And as to how you use the software, I gotta let you guys figure that out. Download it, install it, and run it. Spam. I'm not gonna go for spam. Everybody knows what spam is, right? Spam is email you don't want, basically. Mail you don't want. Okay, malware signs and symptoms. We have 1 minute. Let's see if we can get that. If your PC has been infected by malware, you bump into some strange things before you can even run an anti-malware scan. Like a medical condition, malware causes unusual symptoms that will stand out from your everyday computer use. You need to become a PC physician and understand what each of these symptoms mean. Malware's biggest strength is its flexibility. It can look like anything. And in fact, a lot of malware attacks can feel like normal PC wonkiness. We're talking about slowdowns, one-time crashes, and so on. Knowing when a web application crash is actually a malware attack is half the battle. So your system might be running slow. You might think it's just the performance, but you might really be under a malware attack. All right. You might seem to be getting a number of, I think I should stop talking because we're going to cut off in a second. Let's stop here. We're going to come right back in and we're trying to finish one time. All right, guys.